Continuing from where we were in the last video, you can see that I've got a syntax file open, and that syntax file, just to recap, tells SPSS to go get the original data set, in this case a survey of American political opinion that I had downloaded from the Pew Foundation and uncompressed and set up so it can be analyzed. So I tell SPSS to get the original file. I then asked it to save that file as a different file, a working file, so it's different. And once it had saved the file, I asked it to go back and get that new file, the working file, and open it back up. In this video, what we're going to do is we are going to talk about how you select data when you only want to look at certain types of observations. For example, if you were doing a paper that was only on Republicans, you weren't going to compare them to Democrats at all, the whole paper was trying to analyze Republicans and exclusively Republicans, you might want to set up your data set such that it was a data set of Republicans rather than all Americans. Alternatively, and a much more common example is among students in my classes who are looking at Pew Global Attitudes survey data sets. Those global attitude sets might have 15 or 20 countries in them, and a student might only want to look at France, or might want to look at only people who are French or Egyptian. And so rather than having a bazillion extra observations that have nothing to do with their data set, they might want to restrict the data in that example to people who are just French or who are just Egyptian. So what I'm going to do here is just show you how to truncate that data set so you only have the observations that you want. Okay, so last time, get the data, save it as a new data set, get the new data set. Before we begin with this, this here is a somewhat new feature to SPSS, and I find sometimes when you're running it messes things up, and it's designed to move windows in front of other windows, but it also can create issues for you as you're trying to save data. So we're going to take those out. In this case, and we're just going to have just the clean code that tells us what files to get. So my next step is to give you an example, and in this case what I want to do is I'm going to try to isolate Republicans and Democrats. Let's say that we only want to do a study of partisans and we want to exclude everybody who's not a Republican or a Democrat. In order to do that, I'm first going to have to figure out how Democrats and Republicans are coded in my data set, and because I've already opened this up to my working file, I can take a look at that. And I know from the code book that the variable that I'm interested in is party. And if I go over here and I look at the values that have been encoded, I can see that a Republican is 1 and a Democrat has been coded as 2. And then there are all of these other options. So what we're going to do is we're going to truncate this data so that we only have people who are 1 and 2 in terms of party. And just to give you some sense about what that's going to mean for the data set, we quickly do a descriptive statistics and frequencies. And if we look at party identification, we can see that about 552 observations are Republicans or Democrats. On the other hand, you'll see that over a third of the data set is either independent or something else. And so what I'm going to effectively do is drop all of these other observations. So let's get to work on what that looks like. Whether it's in this window or whether it's over here or in any of the windows, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to go to Select Cases. I'm going to select cases. And in this case, I am going to select if a condition is satisfied. And you'll recall that if your party was equal to 1, that was, I believe, you're a Democrat. Or your party is equal to 2 if you're a Republican. These are the ones I want. Remember, if you're on that ID, if you were party 3, party 4, party whatever, you can do that. And again, notice I didn't type this in unless a typo. I used this to click on the first time, so it put the name of the variable in properly. So there we go. So if your party equals 1 or your party 2, they're going to keep you. So hit continue here. If condition is satisfied, party equals 1, they'll keep you. What are you going to do with the other cases? In this case, I'm never going to use them again, so I'm going to hit delete unselected cases. Double check and make sure I did everything right. Paste it into my syntax. Remember, I'm doing this in my syntax so that if I make a change later on, for example, I want to filter off everybody except Republicans, Democrats, or independents, then I can just change this code, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. We hit the paste. And now we go back to our syntax file, and what we see is they're saying, hey, get rid of a bunch of cases, look at everybody in the data set, select them if party equals 1 or party equals 2. And in fact, if I wanted to, I could day or party equal 3, and if I did that and I ran this thing, I'd end up with the independents in there, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to run it this way. And now filter off. I've ran it. And now if we do analyze, look what happens. Descriptive statistics, frequencies, I've still got the party, I hit OK, and I've only got the Democrats and the Republicans, so all the other observations have gone away. You can see that down here. Before we had 999 cases, and now we have a lot less. And so I have saved, or I've done these, and I've made them go away. So that's how, when I do this data set, that's how I get rid of the observations that I don't want. So that's it. Good luck on doing that. Again, they're really good if you just need to identify one group in your whole group.